And all of a sudden, Kevin O'Leary's like looking into the camera, looking at me, Brennan Storr, in the back row of Landmark Cinemas in London, Ontario, going, I am a vampire. And I thought, oh, so I died. I died watching this movie. And this is just the last few fireworks blowing off. Boy, I'm glad that Kevin O'Leary's fucking face is the last thing I get to see.
It's midnight, and you're listening to the Ghost Story Guys.
Welcome to the Ghost Story Guys. I'm Brennan Storr.
I'm Paul Bestel.
And this is the show where we talk about spooks, specters, and all the other things watching us from the shadows beyond the campfire. Some conversations only make sense after the sun has set, and this is most definitely one. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 232, and we're coming to you from that tiny mountain cabin you dream about, but can never quite reach. Paul Bestel, my vinyl crate-digging friend, how are you doing?
I'm all right. As I was saying, I'm just, disappointed in myself. I seem to have considered that I own records that I do not. And so now I have a list of 70 singles that I must purchase at some point quickly to fill in those gaps that my mind has created in my collection.
Well, naturally, you can't have gaps in a record collection.
Not for me, no.
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 Again, I would love to tease you, but as a collector of movies, I am the last person who can do this. In fact, when I went back to Victoria, I was looking at my shelf of movies and or multiple shelves of movies. I own several hundred, and Nick was saying, "I'd love to watch X, but it's not streaming anywhere." And I said, "Well, we own it, right?" And she goes, "How could I possibly know that?" Right, because they're not in any order. All right, yeah, I gotta fix that next time I'm home.
Yeah, there's a little voice in the back of my mind that keeps saying, "Spreadsheet, Paul, spreadsheet."
Yes, my thoughts exactly.
I'm like, oh no.
It's the next step on the road to autism. It's what it is. You start with spreadsheet. I sent you a spreadsheet for our schedule for this year because I thought, hey, I know what I'm going to do. And that's when I realized, oh yeah, no, there it is.
Yeah, I love a spreadsheet. That's the problem.
Oh, they're great. You keep shit. Back when I was an office manager, king of spreadsheets. I love that shit.
I don't need any more plates to spin at the minute, really.
That's fair. Speaking of vinyl, actually, I blame you for this in a lot of ways.
Good.
I've been spending my Saturdays hanging out at Reed's Records down in St. Thomas because the Union General Coffee Company has like a little kiosk set up there on Saturday mornings. Cool. So I've been going down there, shooting the shit with John and Max, the fellas who run the place, having some coffee, chatting with some of the local St. Thomas business folks I know. And I'm looking at these records and I'm thinking about the conversations about records you and I have had. And I'm like, well, I could probably get a turntable for like, $100 maybe. And, I could get some of the records here that I have in Victoria. And talking to you about vinyl, it just encourages me. So it's 100% your fault.
Good. Well, I bought my mum. That was my main present to my mum at Christmas. I bought her a new record player because she hasn't had one for ages, and a couple of old soul compilations. And so now I'm thinking every time I go in crate digging, I'm looking for, some of my mum's stuff as well now.
Baby, I'm record shopping for two.
Yeah. All these medical tests are really surprising me by what they're diagnosing me as.
So, Mr. Bestel, we'd like you to fill out this form. You just show them a picture of your record collection, immaculately organized. Never mind. That's not necessary.
It's done by year, and then by number of records in that year by a particular artist.
Mr. Bestel, we have no further questions.
Well, it's just common sense, isn't it?
Believe me, I get it. I used to just have my movies purely alphabetical, but at the same time, I understand the year thing would be better. It's just I know the people in my house, the other person in my household who will you be using these, the year thing is going to completely baffle them because otherwise I would do the same thing.
I only let visitors and other people in my house touch albums, not singles.
That's fair. I actually saw a guy, he was selling a box of singles on Facebook Marketplace here for I want to say it's like 70 singles or something.
Yeah, you can drop on. Sometimes you gotta get a lot of crap. When I first started rebuying stuff, I was just buying job lots of 20 singles for 3 or 4 that I liked just to get them. But now I've obviously gone past that, where I'm now buying French import 7 inches from 1984 by Valerie Dore and stuff. So, there's no point shutting that stable door, Bren.
That's why I re-upped my subscription to Vinegar Syndrome, man. We just got, and I ordered the German release, which is the only disc release of the new Hellraiser film. There's a German company called Turbine Media. They just released a 4K. They're the only people who are doing any kind of disc version other than like a basic DVD. And I ordered that too, because like you, I'm committed at this point. There's no point pretending I'm anything other than what I am. So just lean into it and enjoy it.
Yes. I mean, I sit here as a man that has 2 different versions of Sabrina Boys, which for some people, 2 more versions than anybody should own, but I don't care.
I didn't know there was one version. So
what a song.
Boys by Sabrina? Yeah,
watch the video is what I'll say, and then just imagine being 15 when that came out.
All right. Well, we're gonna pause recording here. Okay. Yep. I get it. I think I just had an awakening watching it as a 42-year-old man. So, yes. Well, we're gonna have lots of awakenings on this show. We're gonna awaken to an entire slate of listener stories, including some from Belfast in Northern Ireland, which I think is the first time we've had stories from Belfast, quite possibly from Northern Ireland.
Yeah. Very much, I believe so. Yes, I don't recall us ever having anything from there at all. So I'm excited to hear more.
Me too. But of course, before we do that, we have to thank our patrons.
This one's for the patrons.
Patrons, we could not do what we do without you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For real, guys, every single person who downloads the Ghost Story Guys and tells their friends about us, you help make us who we are. But patrons, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube subscribers, you are the lifeblood of this show, and we genuinely could not do it without you. And while we'd like to thank every single one of you, right now, we'd like to thank our latest subscribers. They are
Winter Borstelman,
Sarah McLean,
Karen,
and Nicole Mallon. Again, guys, thank you so much from the bottom of our terrible hearts. These are indeed lean times, and we deeply appreciate your support. Again, past and present, it means the world to us. And if you would like to get access to bonus conversations between myself and Paul, early ad-free releases of all the episodes, extra spooky shows, our monthly live stream, Ghost Force shoutouts, and so much more, you can click the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. That's patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. Or you can become a Cabinista, our new name for Friends of the Cabin, on Apple Podcasts. All right, Paul, we have a lot of ghost stories after the break, and we have some curiosity to encourage. Folks, this is part of my ongoing challenge to try and convince Paul to say something terrible, true but terrible, out of a recently deceased figure. So we can, this is get out your scorecards and see how far I get.
You've more chance of me believing Erin Patterson's innocent, mate.
Erin Patterson?
She's the mushroom killer.
Right. I see.
That was
well, what can I say, Paul?
Viewing.
I'm just asking questions.
You're just curious.
That's it. Who made that beef Wellington? Was it her? Was it maybe people from the stars? Who's to say? Anyways.
I'm surprised she didn't use that as one of her many defenses.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with the stories. Our first story comes from Patty. Patty says, "Hello, Brennan and Paul. Patty here. How's it going? You guys are great, and I love your show." Well, thank you, Patty. Still catching up on the backlog and recently listened to episode 181. In this episode, y'all, it's okay, I'm from Texas. That's very funny, Patty, because Paul and I were just talking about regional slang and how some things I just can't say. Like, I can't say y'all with authority in regular conversation. Brandon can do it. You, Patty, can do it. I cannot. And there are other words coming up that Paul can get away with that I can't. But so Patty says, y'all had a discussion about staircases and how they could be liminal spaces and or portals. This reminded me of something I experienced around 2019 or 2020. I'd quit my job in 2019 and was able to stay home for a few months. Doing housework all day is boring, so I started listening to podcasts to help pass the time. Unfortunately, I hadn't found you yet, but I did find one by another Canadian guy. Anyway, this person seemed like a down-to-earth guy, smart and funny. The show consisted mostly of him reading emails from listeners about their experiences, and he and a friend would discuss the messages, similar to your format. Interesting, I hadn't realized that before. Anyway, all this is to say that this was just a regular, likable, nice guy. But a few months after I started listening, something changed. He started talking about having some trouble with Facebook or YouTube, I don't remember which, and he was upset about it because he'd gotten banned from the site. He explained that it was a misunderstanding, but they wouldn't listen to reason. Sadly, it seemed like he couldn't get over it. My feeling was that he became bitter and angry. The format of the show changed. He was still reading the emails, but he would just read one after the other with no commentary and in a strange, almost monotone intonation. And for some reason, all of these stories were dark. I wonder now if he was purposely choosing these darker experiences. After listening to the show for a couple of months since this shift, I started to feel like I was being watched. It was subtle most of the time, except when I went to the basement. Our basement is fully finished and well lit. The laundry room is especially bright, but while walking down, never up, the stairs, usually with a laundry basket in my arms, I would see in my mind's eye a quick flash of what looked like a group of 4 or 5 people standing behind me, shoulder to shoulder, tall and thin. But just their silhouettes, no detail at all. Even though I couldn't see their eyes, I knew they were watching, and it was unnerving. I am not psychic. I've had very few paranormal experiences in my 62 years, and most were very low-key, not intense. We'd been living here about 8 or 9 years at that time, and I'd never had any scary or paranormal experiences. So I wondered what changed. Why would this suddenly start happening? I'd been listening to several different paranormal podcasts, maybe 3 in all. Then I realized that one podcast was different. The feelings of being watched were more intense while and after listening to it. So I just stopped. I stopped listening to that particular show, and the feeling went away within a couple of days. It was weird and surprising. I never suspected that listening to a podcast could have that effect. I wonder if maybe the podcaster was drawing negative entities to himself, and maybe the negative entities were looking to see who might invite them in. In a way, maybe they came knocking since I was listening. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for listening, Patty. And Paul, I'm really eager to talk about this one with you because I have a few thoughts, but I'd very much like to hear your take on this.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I thought you might want to chew the fat over this one. Sometimes as if you feel like you've picked something up.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't necessarily know that we can like transmit things, through the air, but I do think, in terms of like entities and things like this, right? Because I think that would be a much more noticeable phenomenon. Like if it were happening, if this person was getting enough email that he could do every show that was just listener mail, then, or enough stories that every show was listener mail, then he's got reach. And I would assume if this negativity was attached and reaching out through the show, that there would be more reports of such a thing. But I do wonder if there is a certain connection that can happen when you're talking to someone who's in a bad space that can it just sort of maybe change your perception. Like I know I've had issues, for example, when I was listening to Mike Brown's book, his first book, there was because I listened to the audiobook, and there was a section there where he was telling a story about some violence that happened to certain people. And I actually I was listening like all through the day, and I just kind of put it on the side while I was in the shower. So it was just kind of playing while I was in the shower, and all of a sudden my body started like the violence was something about the way he described the violence suddenly to me became so visceral that I started to feel nauseous. My whole body felt hot, and I had to turn everything off. I had to turn off the audio, and I had to just like stay away from it for a day or so. It just, something about like the description of it was so, not just the description, but my empathy about it. Yeah. I just couldn't help but putting myself in the place of these people it was happening to, these particularly vulnerable people. And so obviously Mike was very effectively communicating that. So sometimes I think we can connect with things we listen to. And I wonder if maybe that can affect the way we vibrate in the world. And so it makes things a little more visible to us. I don't know.
That's a good theory, I think, because we've all encountered people. I mean, one of my favorite phrases is, is about somebody that, they could start an argument in an empty room. And they're the kind of people that just emanate negativity at all times. And it doesn't matter how you feel, their vibration just affects you. Even in just the body language or the way their posture and things, it can have a detrimental effect to you. And it's very interesting, I think, when you have such an emotional response to listening to something or hearing something. A good example of that is a couple of years ago, me and Julie were listening to an episode of Uncanny, Richard McLean-Smith's show. And he was talking about a good friend of mine, the Count Saint-Germain. And I thought it was an absolutely incredibly fascinating, intriguing, interesting episode. Julie was scared stiff by it. It scared her to death.
Really?
She really didn't like it. And I was like, well, what's so frightening? She says, I just don't like the thought of someone like that. And I said, well, it's not particularly bad. She says, yeah, but it's weird, isn't it? It's just strange. And I never really understood it, because I think sometimes, especially when we work in the Fortean, we often come across strange things or things that might be deeply unpalatable for others, such as things involving animals or assaults or terrible ways that people have passed. I wouldn't say you become shielded from it, but I think sometimes you can forget that it becomes our meat and veg, as they say. And for some people, it's not something that they indulge in very often. And I think you can not necessarily underestimate the power of words, but I think when you are in a particular place and time, in a particular headspace, I think fairly standard descriptive discussions or situations can be elevated for a variety of reasons. And it's intriguing how that can affect your perception of the world around you. And maybe that has had something to do with it, that not necessarily that you're linking with someone else's negative thoughts through the airwaves, but perhaps it's affecting you internally in such a way that is enabling you to see things that perhaps are not as clear as they would normally be when you were in a different frame of mind.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Perhaps. I don't know. That could be all mumbo jumbo.
No, I think you've got to, the subtitle of the show could be, talking bollocks, mumbo jumbo. So like we're on the same page there. But I think this is something that it maybe hasn't got enough attention or enough real consideration, maybe in terms of the podcasting field, because podcasting is not new anymore, but in terms of legacy media, it's or compared to legacy media, it's new. In fact, I was just reading a thread about this the other day about podcasts, which are essentially, they should have ended a long time ago, but the hosts are dependent on it for their livelihood. And so they just keep going. And I won't name any of the shows that they name on there, because it wouldn't be fair. These are much bigger shows than we are, but still, I just think it would be dickish. But audio is such an intimate medium, right? It's coming right into your ears, and especially often in the quiet moments or at night. And I think the mood of the people you're listening to, I do think it can have an impact on you. And some folks who, like, it doesn't matter how much they win, they're never happy. And if something goes wrong, even something small, it's like personal, it's a big deal. And then there's also this push pull, because you need your audience, right? Like and in our case, again, we have a great audience, but some folks, they have an audience, say 10, 20 times the size of ours, 30 times the size of ours, but it encompasses such a wider swath of people that they tend to get a lot more negativity kind of blowing back at them.
Yeah.
And when you need the approval of an audience, you take in everything, not just the good stuff. You end up taking in the bad stuff, and you end up kind of internalizing the bad shit too. And then I think you start to resent the audience a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, like we are so lucky that is not a concern for us. But I think you can hear it from these hosts. You can hear, especially, like, there was a show I used to listen to called Disaster Girls, and the first, I don't know, maybe year it's brilliant. It's a ton of fun. It's two film critics talking about disaster movies. Mm-hmm. But over time, you could hear a rift develop between the hosts because one of them was having success with other endeavors and the other was just kind of plodding along doing what they were doing. And the host who was having success with their other endeavors, they were getting a little bit big for their britches, if that makes sense, like, which is not a knock against this person. I think they're, generally speaking, well, mind you, I haven't read their work in a while, but they're very talented. They were, at least at the time, a pretty insightful film critic, but they started getting really quite up their own ass. And it started to affect not just that show, but this other show that they started creating with someone else, which I also quite enjoyed. But there was this sense of like, the audience is beneath us. And I think what happens is, I think if you're like kind of a gross jerk and you vibe with that, then I think you can just listen to it and it's not going to bother you. But I think if you are just enough out of that vibration that you can hear what's going on, it's going to feel weird to you to keep listening to it. And I think the more you listen to it, the less good about it you feel when you listen to it. I think when you're in tune with what you're taking in, I think there's a sense of like smoothness. And I would hope that if someone's listening to our show, like maybe they get good spooky, but I would hope that they're not feeling like, oh God, this is a soul dead slog, or like these guys are miserable or something, right? Like I would never want that. Maybe some of our ad reads, Well,
I think it's not just podcasts, is it? You can attribute that kind of thing to all forms of media, that lots and lots of things go well past their sell-by date and keep going for a variety of reasons. Usually the show's too big, or the band's too big, or the author's too big, and you can tell when people start dialing it in, I think. Or certain TV shows, it just becomes more and more ridiculous. Thinking of suggesting perhaps Dynasty as a great example of this. Not only did they have a massacre at a royal wedding, but one of the characters was also kidnapped by a UFO during one particular season. So and I can't remember if she came back as a different actress as well.
We can't forget Days of Our Lives and their multiple satanic possession episodes.
Well, you see, that never took off over here. So I've only ever seen bits and bats of like crap telly compilations, and they've got things from Days in Their Life. It never really got across. It's one of those shows that obviously was massive in North America, but it barely made a dent here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my grandma watched Days of Our Lives religiously. Guys, I know an uncomfortable amount of Days of Our Lives trivia. I'll just say that right now. I'll never bring it up, or try not to. But yeah.
So it's
when Jennifer Aniston broke big in Friends, I was like, oh, that's Victor's daughter. Yeah.
Oh, that's from Leprechaun, is what I thought.
Okay. Well, her dad was Victor. I think Victor Kiriakis.
Yes.
In Days of Our Lives for a long time. So anyways, I promised I wouldn't do this, so I'm going to stop. Let's stop talking about Days of Our Lives. Please continue what you were saying.
And so you can see it. You see certain programs where there are tensions. I mean, the A-Team is a prime example, between the cast for a variety of reasons. It happens in music.
Community.
Allegedly. And so it's...
I don't know. Have you seen that documentary about Chevy Chase?
Oh,
the only person from Community who would talk on the record was Jay Chandrasekhar from Super Troopers, because he directed a bunch of episodes. Everyone else is like, yeah, it's better off if we just don't tell those stories.
Well, Julie said to me, do you want to watch that? And I went, no. And she went, why? I said, I know all about Chevy Chase. I don't need further confirmation of what a monumental dick he is.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I lived through the 80s, so I've had the misfortune of watching Fletch and Spies Like Us and things like that, and being told that they were the greatest comedy films ever made, and I'm just like completely bamboozled here going, what the hell is going on? This isn't funny in the slightest. I've seen funnier episodes of Sorry, which is a very specific British reference there for anybody in their 40s and 50s. And so it is. It's. I think, like you say, I think sometimes you get so tied to the financial ramifications of doing something that it then stops being a passion. It becomes a job and a way of living. And when that shift happens, you're on a downward slide.
Yeah, that becomes a challenge, and you know, with anything, right? Like again, I've been doing this. This is 10 seasons now, right? So you definitely go through kind of waves of connection to the material, which I think is normal. But you can hear when either someone has drifted from the topic and they don't care anymore, or when someone has drifted from the person they're doing it with, or the people they're doing it with. Like last podcast on the left, I think I can say one or two things about them. They're not going to give a shit. They've been around long enough. And like there were times towards the end when when Ben Kissel was running for he was running for office of some kind in New York, when it just was no longer entered. You could tell he wasn't in it anymore. You know, he had this idea of himself, like, I'm a serious person now. I want to be taken seriously, because he was always kind of one of the goobers on the show, the sort of the straight man who would be the guy learning things. Yeah. And you could just tell, like, he wasn't in it, and it wasn't fun listening to him do it anymore. Like that's kind of around the time I drifted from the show. And of course, then a lot of stuff came out about Kissel later, which I discovered recently after Ed Larson was on Cryptid Cocktail Party. I kind of thought, oh, what happened to the last podcast? And, you know, they're still around, bless them. But yeah, Kissel is no longer part of the show. But yeah, you can hear when people are having that, like, that. I mean, yeah, well, okay, I won't get into it, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, definitely there are times you can feel it even if you don't hear it. And I think you just start thinking, this isn't fun to listen to anymore.
Yep, I know exactly what you mean. So it affects all aspects of entertainment. It would and life as well. You know, I mean, I've always been one of those people. If my heart's not in it, I can't do it. I can't fake it. I can't do it. You know, I'm not doing this as a favor or as part of a probation plea deal or anything. I do it because I genuinely enjoy listening to the stories, spending time with you, hearing from our listeners. It gives me joy to record my show and this show. And when it stops being fun, and like you said, there have been times where I've sat there and I thought, do I really want to keep doing this? Do I really want to keep doing it? And when I look at myself deep down and I think about it, I say yes.
Yeah, same here. Nothing else provides the enjoyment that this does.
Yeah, even sorting my vinyl out. Which has now caused me anxiety.
Oh, no.
I can't stop thinking about records in my head all the time while we're talking.
I can see it spinning above your head.
I keep thinking, why do I not own Louis Sum Imagination? Why do I not own that record? I love that song. Why do I not have it? What has happened there?
Well, while Paul puzzles this out, Patty, I will just say that I don't think things can necessarily find you through the media you consume. I don't think it works like that. But I do think if you are listening to someone who is really in a bad place consistently, I think that can sensitize you to negativity.
Beware the fun suckers.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So thank you, Patty. Thank you for sharing. That was a really cool conversation, and I appreciate you prompting it.
Our next story is from Jerry. Dear Brennan and Paul, I've wanted to write in for years to share my experiences with the paranormal, so here goes. But before I begin, I simply must gush. And here it is. I adore your podcast. I've been an avid listener for years and I never miss an episode. I've spooked many a passerby by belly laughing whilst walking my dog, with you both in my ears. I also went back to episode 1 and listened all the way through, and like many fellow listeners, I agree that Paul is by far the better choice as a co-presenter. You have both unknowingly been with me through the most difficult years of my life, and managed to bring on tears of laughter even in the darkest of times. While struggling during a bout of bone-crushing depression, I heard your mental health message in my head, and it definitely helped me slowly trudge my way back to myself. So please keep it up. I have a few stories of my own to share, but first I thought you and your listeners would enjoy some of my family's tales. I'm from Belfast, Northern Ireland, West Belfast specifically, which is predominantly a Catholic Republican area. Whilst I was fortunate enough to be born in 1987, my parents grew up amid a terrible time in Northern Ireland known as the Troubles, and I'm sure Paul can fill you in on the details. But briefly, it was a civil war with Irish Republicans, not to be confused with the American versions, thank you very much, and the opposition, which was essentially British Protestants. Northern Ireland remains under British rule, and together Northern Ireland and Britain formed the United Kingdom at this time. United my arse. Many people lost their lives and everyone in Northern Ireland was affected in some way or another. There were absolute horrors occurring daily. My parents grew up in West Belfast, a sort of epicentre for the IRA. There were British soldiers everywhere. If they needed your home for a vantage point, they took it. My beloved late father was a teenager when he was walking home in the afternoon, just passing by the library. Lord knows he wasn't much of a reader, but when pressed he admitted he was half cut and heading home. He was abruptly in the middle of a shoot-off between British soldiers and the other side. He froze and was saved by his friend from school who tackled him to the ground. He was a lucky man, my father. He later survived stage 4 cancer, walking out of the hospice with the nurse's phone number in his pockets. Legend. I got an additional 20 years with him after that, and I miss him every day. It brings me great comfort that I was able to be with him at the end. Bizarrely, my mother had a similar experience one street away a couple of years after my father nearly got shot, or shat, as we say here, only hers was far spookier. Like my father, she was heading home after a few libations and stopped outside for one last cigarette, when she heard one of her 8 sisters call her name angrily to get inside now. Annoyed, my mother went inside, cigarette stubbed out all too soon, and slammed the door behind her, ready to have a screaming match, no doubt, with whichever sister had interrupted her, only to find that the house was dead silent and everyone fast asleep. She said she hadn't had time to take one step from the door when multiple shots rang out. She believes it was her own late mother who saved her. In that same house, one of my saner aunts recalls one night she was in bed and the bedroom door was ajar with the landing light on. As she watched the landing, trying to nod off, she swears on her life she watched a black cat with bright green eyes walk by the door on 2 legs. It looked right at her as it passed. This still gives her the chills at 62 years old, and she's had no other paranormal experiences. Side note on violence in Northern Ireland, and not so fun fact, it's still not uncommon to be ordered to go to a specific pot and time for a punishment shooting. Yep, this is now very much reserved for naughty boys these days. Essentially, they shoot one or both your knees. The idea is to stop drug dealers, car thieves, and the like. Now on to my own experiences. When I was 13 years old, it was the 1990s, and not uncommon for single mothers such as my own to go to work and leave you home all day. I was washing the dishes in the bright afternoon with my then 3-year-old brother standing next to me. A teenager in a navy off-brand Adidas tracksuit and shaved head walked from the adjacent hallway into my mother's downstairs bedroom. My brother and I looked at him, then each other, then realising what we saw, my brother and I freaked out, thinking there was some random chav in the house. I ran to every room and checked every window. It was all locked and nobody was home but us. The odd thing was that when we saw him, we were both calm. I've had a few experiences like this and wonder when I see an actual apparition, there's an odd sense of calm. Many years later, I witnessed a small shadow figure popping his head into the living room from the hallway. I was not intoxicated in any way, and by this time I'd had a few experiences, so I calmly asked my mother if she ever saw him. Well, fuck me. The holy water was out in a heartbeat. I could see she'd considered booting me out for good measure as well. Lol. Years after I saw the first apparition, I got into science. I'm a scientist by trade, and all thoughts of the paranormal were firmly buried in the back of my mind. That was until one day when my aunt threw a tea leaf reading party for my mother's birthday. Many are spiritual in this neck of the woods, and often consult psychics and the like. I was very much rolling my eyes until the lady got to me. She said she was super impressed at how well I'd done in school and saw me in a white coat in America. I was going to marry a fireman, she said. Many years later, after working in a lab in Seattle, I married my high school sweetheart, and he randomly decided that law wasn't for him, and instead, he'd be a fireman. We moved into a rundown flat in a neighbouring town, and here is where I can conclusively say my belief in the paranormal was cemented. We spent a few years slowly building the flat up from bare plywood floors and installing a kitchen. I know, so fancy. I gave birth to our beautiful child, and all was well. I say that, but the marriage had spoiled, so there was an awful lot of tension in the air. But for the most part, it was just myself, my child, and the dog at the time. But for the most part, It was just myself, my child, and the dog at home most of the time, which suited me. One night, as I prepared dinner on an open-plan living kitchen area, my son, a toddler at this stage, was watching TV when out of nowhere, the scoop from my salt pig flew out of the jar, sending salt all over the counter, right in front of me. The salt pig was only half full, so there's absolutely no way for it to happen on its own. I damn near pooped my pants. I gasped, my son and dog turned to look at me, and at that exact moment, we all hear my guitar strum at the far side of the room. Full intentional strum. Well, fuck me. I had a glass of 2 that night, let me tell you. And a few months later, I was listening to the dulcet tones of Emma from Real Life Ghost Stories. And rest in peace, Dan. And I nearly fell off my chair at work when they mentioned their own guitar strum experience. From then on, we in the house experienced very frequent paranormal events alongside the crumbling relationship. Lights flickering, knocking, even though we were the only people living in that building, items not being where we left them, hearing our names called. These things ramped up until it was almost a daily occurrence. I'd been interested in the paranormal for years at this point, expressly told my ex not to acknowledge these events and smudged that place with an inch of its life, especially during COVID, of course, being inside all day. My ex was a complete skeptic and happily ridiculed my hysteria. Real nice guy. However, this would change as we sat eating dinner. I tried very hard for years to make this marriage work. The lights flickering again, him rolling his eyes. When our son's small wooden fire engine rolls across the dining table right in front of us both. He tried to debunk it, but he made that table, and it is, in fairness, perfectly flat. One Sunday morning, my ex was making breakfast, and I was on the balcony smoking a cigarette when I felt him gently touch my hip as if to get my attention. When I turned to ask what was up, I saw him on the other side of the large living dining room. It was so intentional I couldn't have imagined it. I was spooked, so I ran upstairs to check on my son, only to find him white-faced next to the collapsed stairgate. I truly think my family spirits were looking out for him and letting me know. A couple of years later, things had gotten bad. My ex had got incredibly controlling, mentally and financially abusive. I wasn't even allowed to call my sister on the phone and essentially took my hard-earned money for himself every month. I got my shit together, went to group therapy, got sober, and started refusing to pay a penny without proof of bills. He'd secretly removed my name from everything. And he didn't like that one bit. 3 short months later, with his cash cow not taking any more shit, he waited till the day before my huge presentation at a local conference to tell me he wanted to break up. This was necessary, as I knew I wouldn't get a clean break unless he was the one to suggest it. I'd stockpiled enough money to set my son up in a rental, and gave my presentation the next day with my head held high as my closest friend sat white-faced at the end of my 18-year relationship. This was on the Wednesday. My son and I were packed and out of there by the Friday. We stayed at my mum's for a few weeks, and that's another story there, sweet Jesus. But by the following month, we were happily in our terraced rental. A month or so later, the ex was over to discuss our parenting schedule. He was in the kitchen. I went to check on my son in the living room, when, for a brief moment, I genuinely considered getting back together with this scumbag. At that very moment, a 2-foot wide, 1-foot deep shadow raced from the hallway behind me super fast, slowed down for a millisecond right in front of me, between myself and the kitchen, and then sped off again. I truly believe that this was some entity telling me in no uncertain terms to hold it together and not to get back with that jackass. So I didn't. I tell you this in the hope that someone out there benefits. It's super tough to leave abusive partners, but my God, the joy I feel every single day coming home to our little sanctuary and closing my front door knowing I wouldn't have to watch my words or be fearful. Mwah. It's been 3 years since I left my jerk ex. We co-parent well and are happily divorced. In that time, I've managed to save enough money to buy a beautiful little house for myself and my son and have an amazing, loving, kind and generous partner. I cannot believe my luck. P.S. Since the shadow apparition, I haven't had any paranormal experiences, but my twatty ex texted me late one night begging me to tell him how I got rid of the ghost before. Haha, brilliant. Anyway, I have a couple more stories, but this is super long. Love you both and keep up the excellent work. Jerry.
Well, Jerry, that's incredible. Thank you so much.
I'm not used to saying so many swear words.
Well, like I said, there are certain words from that part of the world that only you can get away with saying. That if it doesn't sound right if I say it. So I just thought, nope, it's better this way.
But yeah, fascinating, Jerry.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, more and more, we seem to have this split between shadow people encounters, where you've got some which appear to be like truly negative, like what Patty was saying. It seems like there's something kind of negative finding its way to you and sort of preying on whether fears or insecurities or whatever you got going on. And kind of in Jerry's case, it sounds like these things were showing up to be like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
This is the fact that, that she was thinking about getting back together with the ex, and this thing swooped in like relationship Batman and went absolutely not. I mean, that to me seems helpful. I don't think you can spin that as anything but.
Well, we've had this a couple of times, haven't we? That we've had shadow people encounters that, on reflection, it's the opposite to what the general consensus about them is. They seem almost helpful. Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that the whole shadow thing is there is something about them we cannot perceive for whatever reason. They have a visual quality that we cannot perceive, and so our senses just sub in darkness.
Yes.
Because I always think darkness, scary, whatever, but I in this case I just think it's genuinely like this is something we have a hard time contextualizing, so we're not able to.
Well, it's a psychological fact, isn't it? I mean, you can see that. I still find this baffling that animal shelters always struggle to get black pets adopted, even in this day and age. Why is that? I mean, I just don't understand. Yeah, it's certainly an issue here in the UK. I'm not sure what it's like abroad, but it's one of those things. And people suggest that it's psychologically linked to this perception that black is evil or malevolent or dangerous or witches' cats and black shucks and all that nonsense. And for me, growing up with black Labradors all my life, I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you all? What's the matter? It's a pet. It needs a home. Doesn't matter what colour it is. Really? It's crazy. So I think even on that level, it shows that the perception is if it's dark or shadowy or mysterious, it must be evil or dangerous or it's up to no good. And as with anything, the more we hear, the less it becomes the same case. It's not a one-size-fits-all, as it often is in the paranormal. That there are layers here. There are nuances to understand. And for me, Jerry's is one of the best examples, because I suggest that paranormal activity is all based around, obviously, coming from that particular part of Belfast and the family and that weird connection that you've got with Catholicism and spirituality in Northern Ireland and Ireland. It's a very interesting dynamic that they have there, that people are fully in belief of Catholicism, but they'll also happily talk about the fae. And so some people find that a hard balancing act. But for me, I think it just shows that, I know I've spoken to a couple of Irish people who basically said, yeah, we just pretend to be Catholic, so they'd leave the fae alone.
Hey, as someone who was raised in and left the Catholic Church, I endorse this.
It wouldn't surprise me. But it just seems to be something that a lot of people in Ireland and Northern Ireland are very comfortable with, that kind of relationship that other countries can't seem to get their heads around. You're either one or the other, whereas the Irish seem to have a wonderful cocktail of belief that works well for them. And fair enough, good for them if that's how it works. And so I think the more experiences like Jerry's we get, I think for me, it shows that this activity, the majority of it during this toxic relationship and its sad demise, for me, sounds like things were going on as a warning, as an alarm, really.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think if we are ever going to truly make any headway in understanding what's actually happening in some of these cases, we have to move past these binary notions of what is or isn't a ghost, or what is or isn't a shadow person. or what is or isn't a Wendigo or whatever, right? Like we get so hung up on these ideas of things, everything is one thing or another. It is either, well, it's because we love taxonomy for some reason, oh, that's a Wendigo. I think because for some people, it allows them to feel like an expert. Say like, oh, you felt cold. Well, and you were in the woods. Well, that's a Wendigo, cause this, and this. And if it's over here, we don't have enough information to make those calls. And I think we have to be comfortable with what you're talking about, is that accepting that it can be more than one thing and that we lack the perception to fully tease these apart, but we have to leave room in the gray areas for there to be differences, because otherwise we're just going to keep chasing our tail telling the same bullshit stories over and over.
Or you could just write a book about Jack the Ripper just talking shit.
I mean, it's an evergreen market. Or, I could say that the pyramids were built by aliens. Just off the top of my head, that's a real thing. Paul, what do you think about people who write books about the aliens building the pyramids?
That's a chariot I'm not getting a lift on.
Of the gods.
Well, I mean, I can tell you who built the pyramids because I was there, and it was the Egyptians.
Oh, man. Speaking of Counts of Saint-Germain, so last night I went to go see Marty Supreme. Which is a brilliant film. It's very, very good. And for folks, if you haven't seen the previews, it's about a guy who was loosely based on a guy named, I think, Marty Reisman, who was a ping pong champion.
Yep.
The guy, I know nothing about Marty Reisman, but the guy in the film, he's a son of a bitch. And the film is in no way a celebration of him. The film is it is an examination of a very American brand of son of a bitch. But again, he's far from the hero of the thing. But regardless, at one point several points, he interacts with a businessman. And in the film's climax, which is this very tense ping pong game between him and the Japanese champion who had beat him in an earlier scene, the businessman approaches him and they have a bit of an argument kind of under their breath in between rounds. And now, again, you kind of have to get into the depth of it to really explain what's going on. All I'll say is the businessman is a very wealthy man. This ping pong player is he's very much a hustler. He's not quite as good as he thinks he is, at either hustling or ping pong, maybe. And this businessman, who's played by the Kevin O'Leary, who I'm not a fan of. And we should stop putting real life businessmen in movies until we learn how to remember that guys who are businessmen on TV should not be politicians, but that's a whole other thing. Anyways, as his I am judging you and you are pathetic speech to Marty, the businessman says, I was born in 1601. I'm a vampire and I've seen 100 people like you. And I assume it's meant to be this character's his stock, I'm trying to freak you out and unnerve you speech. But it was 1:45 in the morning. I thought I was having a fucking stroke. Because this has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. And all of a sudden, Kevin O'Leary's looking into the camera, looking at me, Brennan Storr, in the back row of Landmark Cinemas in London, Ontario, going, I am a vampire. And I thought, oh, so I died. I died watching this movie. And this is just the last few fireworks blowing off. Boy, I'm glad that Kevin O'Leary's fucking face is the last thing I get to see.
Who knows where the Count is?
Well, he could be on a chariot with the gods.
Or maybe he's hanging around Crumlin Road in Belfast looking for their wonderful phantom hitchhiker.
Oh, they have a phantom hitchhiker?
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Oh, is his ma his dad?
Sticks it up his bollocks. Apologies to the Gaelic community there for murdering one of your wonderful turns of phrase. They've got a weird one because as you come around this, it's quite an open stretch. I think it used to be the main road from Belfast to the airport. I don't think it is anymore. I think they've built a bigger road for it. And apparently you come around this bend and dozens of people have reported seeing somebody stood by the side of the road. And it's completely clear. There's no trees or anything. You can't mistake it. It's not a sign or anything or a reflection. And as people approach it, the closer they get, the image begins to fade till people are within 20 yards of it and it's gone. but they've seen it all the way up to there and then it disappears. So it's not one of those phantom hitchhikers who gets in and then buggers off or gives them an address and they get there and, oh no, Stephen died 10 years ago in a motorbike crash, one of those famous ones. It's just, he doesn't even bother getting there. He just freaks people out by buggering off before they arrive.
Interesting. I mean, in a way, that's very Irish. Very cool. You know, I don't have to go. I don't have to try real hard to scare you. I'm just a little bit. You get like 30%.
Yeah, they've got a couple of good. I mean, they've obviously got a haunted jail. I think their old train station was haunted. I'm sure I read a story that they had a ghost who used to sit in the canteen at night. So they waited until everybody went, and then people would walk past and they'd see a customer in there still drinking a coffee. And when they went in, everything was locked up and there was nobody there.
Interesting.
So they've got some very interesting ones. I'd love to know more, I think, because we tend to hear a lot of ghost stories and legends from Ireland, but I think Northern Ireland gets brushed over a lot. So it'd be nice to dive into it more. I think Icy Sedgwick did an episode about Northern Irish ghosts, or Belfast especially, a few years ago. It rings a bell because obviously I listen to Icy's show regularly because she's amazing.
And for the folks who don't know, what's Icy's show called?
Fabulous Folklore with Icy Sedgwick.
Sorry, pigeons are fighting atop my door.
I wondered what that was.
That was fighting pigeons.
Sure it's not a thunderbird.
He's big enough, for Christ's sakes, but...
So yeah, it'd be good to see it, because I would imagine there'd be some rather specific... I mean, obviously it's got some incredible legends like, you know, the Giant's Causeway and all that. That's a fabulous story.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Actually, do you mind telling for folks who don't, because I imagine a lot of folks don't know the story of the Giant's Causeway. It's I've been there, but I imagine you'll tell the story better.
Yeah, well, it's essentially, it's one of those wonderful stories that they have in certain regions of the United Kingdom and Ireland of giants. The Welsh have them, Cornish, Scots, and obviously the Irish. And this was all to do with the Giant's Causeway was built by giants to enable them to get over to Scotland for courting, shall we say. And that's what created it, which I think is one of those wonderful legends. Obviously, we know it's volcanic now, but who's to say? That doesn't say that the giants didn't pick up lava and throw it there.
Yeah, no, it's a spectacular place. I've been there, I think, a couple times now, not for a very long time, but that whole part of Ireland. I mean, Ireland itself is just gorgeous, top to bottom. Whatever part of the country you find yourself in.
Yes, I've yet to visit Northern Ireland. I really would like to, because I'd love to go and see the Giant's Causeway and other stuff. But I know Belfast looks incredible these days, because as Jerry referred to, sadly we're both of the same vintage. So whilst we didn't grow up during the majority of the Troubles, it's still very fresh in our mind. The ceasefire will be nearly 30 years ago now, since the Good Friday Agreement. One of the great...
Yeah, 1998.
Yeah, one of Tony Blair's greatest achievements, regardless of what he went on to do afterwards. You know, it's just the stupidity of it all. I mean, obviously living in England, we had a lot of Irish people come to England to get away. My grandfather's next door neighbours were from Ireland, so we basically had sort of first-hand accounts of the Troubles. So, yeah, there for the grace of God go I. So, you know, nobody... should be put through what was going on there. So it's pulled itself up by its socks, and long may it continue, and just keep moving forwards as we all should from that terrible period, regardless of the reasons and the justifications for it. It's a long and tortuous history that doesn't show the British government in a very nice light, unusually. That's quite surprising for that particular period of time. But you know, good luck to him. I'd love to get there at some point. I really would.
In fairness, you know, I'm about 3/4 of the way through Patrick O'Rourke's Burn Them Out, A History of Fascism and the Far Right in Ireland. Yep. And even the IRA, the sort of the Republican side of the conflict, their enemy of my enemy is my friend philosophy led to them making some unfortunate bedfellows during the Second World War.
Yep, they certainly did.
I did not know that. That was really enlightening. I don't know if enlightening is the right word. Edifying, maybe. I learned a lot reading that book.
Ireland was officially neutral during the Second World War.
Yeah.
It's one of two countries in Europe that was, three, though one of them said they were neutral, where essentially they were just a bank for the Nazis. But, you know, let's not remind Switzerland of their role in that. I'm sure it makes them deeply uncomfortable and they just don't like to talk about it. But,
Yeah. I'm sure it's not that cashing the checks keeps them so busy they can't remember.
No, all that chocolate, mate, makes you forget.
And yes, folks, if you want to read a great history book, Burn Them Out by Padraig O'Rourke. His name is very, very Irish, so it's not spelled the way you think it's spelled, but just look for Burn Them Out. It's a frustrating read, especially for someone like me who gets mad at injustice and losers who like to pretend to be strong by blaming other people for their problems. So thank you again, Jerry. That was very cool. And yeah, please do send more stories if you'd like to. We'd love to read them. Our next story comes from Dana. Dana says, "Hello, Brennan, Paul, and the rest of the GSG crew. My name is Dana. I started listening to the podcast back in 2020. It really helped me get through that strange, difficult time. I've always loved the mix of stories and comedy. For years, I've wanted to share a few of my own stories, but never quite had the courage. Until now. Like so many listeners, I've had my own share of unusual experiences, many of which I've just kept to myself. This particular story happened very early in my life, and even now, all these years later, I still remember it vividly and find myself thinking of it often. I was about 5 years old, playing in the front yard on a warm spring afternoon. My parents had left the front door open to let in the breeze, and I could hear the television drifting out from inside. When I glanced toward the screen door, I saw my dad on the couch watching TV. Then I heard the front gate open. Thinking it was my grandpa, I turned to look, only to see a neighborhood boy I didn't like. He was a bully and an all-around bad apple. I was angry that he had come into our yard without permission. So I marched up to him and told him, in the most serious 5-year-old voice I could muster, that I wasn't his friend and he wasn't allowed to come over and play. Then I crossed my arms, turned away dramatically, and took a few big steps with my back toward him. As I came to a stop, I lowered my head, and that's when I saw a sudden flash of light to my left. It was like a camera flash just out of sight on the side of the house, bright enough to illuminate my parents' van parked in the driveway. Immediately after the flash, something rounded the corner of the house. I'd never seen anything like it. It was tall, colorless, and somewhat translucent. It moved quickly and with purpose, kind of gliding and floating. I couldn't make out its full shape, but I clearly remember it had eyes, expressive and locked on mine somehow, warning me. Stunned and confused, I wondered if anyone else could see it. I even pinched myself to make sure I wasn't dreaming. I shook my head, blinked, and suddenly my entire point of view shifted. When my eyes opened, I was no longer in my body. I was looking down at myself from slightly above. I immediately checked to see if I was floating and realized I didn't seem to have a body at all. Panic set in. I thought maybe I died suddenly. Yet below me, I could see myself standing there, arms still crossed, completely alive. I couldn't speak, but I could hear my own thoughts as I were talking. I could hear everything around me and look in any direction, but I couldn't move from where I was suspended. Then I focused on the scene in front of me. The boy looked furious. He dug angrily into his pockets and pulled something out. As he stepped closer, I realized he was holding a book of matches. He tore a few loose, lit them, and started walking towards my body with his arm extended, the flame inching closer to my long brown hair. Watching it all, I felt desperate, completely helpless, watching it all unfold. Suddenly, a loud yell broke the moment. My mom. I looked toward the front door and saw her behind the screen with my baby sister and my dad standing beside her. My dad bent down to pick up my sister as my mom threw the door open and stepped outside. The moment her foot stepped off the front porch, I snapped back into my body. I grabbed my hair immediately, pulling it over my shoulder and holding it tight against my chest. I quickly looked back toward where the being had been, but it was gone. I heard my mom scolding the boy, making him empty his pockets and telling him to get the hell out of here and never come back. I ran to her, bursting with excitement and trying to explain everything I just experienced, but she was too focused on him to hear my wild story. I remember bringing it up after things had settled down, but it was brushed off as me having an active imagination, so I stopped talking about it. Later in life, I learned about out-of-body experiences and assumed that must have been what had happened, but I had no control of it. The circumstances were so strange. I told no one for decades because I was afraid people would think I was crazy. When I finally shared the story with my mom more than 30 years later, she said she remembered the incident and was stunned by my interpretation of it. To this day, I wonder if it was a spirit guide, a guardian angel, or just an hallucination. Maybe someday I will know the answers to this mysterious event. All I know is it stayed with me my whole life. Thank you for taking the time to read my story. I'm looking forward to sharing more in the future. Until then, wishing you a wonderful holiday season. And Dana, that is incredible. And again, we have another story of what really sounds like a guardian, like someone completely outside our understanding, watching out for this person.
Yeah. It seems that we've got a lot of spiritual protection in the works today.
Yeah, it really does. Funny enough, that's something we've talked about this on the show before, because those flashes are something Keel documented in Mothman.
Yeah.
He said that he would see them before significant changes in his life. And of course, I've seen them 3 times. And once I was on my way to a concert with a friend of mine. We were going to see Riff Raff, of all things. So I guess that was a pivotal point in my life. Got to watch Riff Raff sing along to Scar Tissue by the Red Hot Chili Peppers while he chugged from a bottle of Kettle One vodka.
That's value for money right there. Intriguing. It's not something I've ever experienced, but I like you say, I have come across it in certain Fortean cases, or people when they get a sort of message in their head that they can't really understand where it's come from. It's describes like light bulb flashing, like the old camera that you'd see in the old films where people would be there with the enormous flashes like poof.
Oh, interesting. I tell you where it didn't happen to me, Dana, was the time someone actually set me on fire. I was in class, and I remember I was sitting at my desk, and I remember my arm suddenly felt hot, and I smelled burning hair. And then I looked, and this kid who was nuts was holding a lighter underneath my arm, like burning my arm hair. And he just laughed, "The forest's on fire, run, Mr. Bear," and just was cackling. Just a very strange, he was a very weird dude, tall, skinny, kind of scary. I went to elementary school with him as well, and he was this very chaotic presence. Sometimes he could be capable of these really deep insights, and other time he was just insane. Like he would flick you in the arm or anywhere, and he just, like his 2 fingers, he could flick one finger over the other at this speed, which I'm certain could have literally dug out furrows of flesh if he tried hard enough. And he would go, "Flicks, buddy, flicks," and he would just whap the shit out of people. It hurt like hell, man. Again, he only did it to me a handful of times, but he would do it to certain people. He liked to pick on bullies, which was kind of this sort of chaotic good, I guess, part of his personality. So, but he was like Jaws, except instead of "Donut," you'd hear "Flicks, buddy." Another time we're sitting in the gym, and there's this girl who's, I don't know, she was doing something on the volleyball court, and he taps me on the shoulder. I look over and he goes, "She could suck a golf ball through a garden hose." And I was like, man, we're 12. Like, I know what that means, but that's because I'm broken inside. Like, no, I don't think any of that's happening here. I think we've both been around some people we probably shouldn't and heard some things, but I'm smart enough to not repeat them.
I'm trying to think what film that's in.
I'm sure Chevy Chase was in it, whichever it was.
Probably some quality entertainment like Porky's.
Okay, now let's not go crazy. I quite like Porky's, made by the amazing Bob Clark. It's funny, actually. We showed. We've got some friends who are younger than us, and we've shown them over the years a handful of movies that were popular when we were young, or that we watched and we used to think were funny. And one of them was Porky's. And at the end of it, we sat there in what I thought was satisfied silence, and I went, "Oh, that one really held up." Turns out I was the only guy in the room who thought that.
The only one not crying.
Yeah, no, it was, the sentiment was not shared, we'll say.
Yes. I remember once going to somebody's house, and there was about 5 or 6 of us, and we all were entertained by Pi, the film. And after about an hour, I just went outside and smoked cigarettes because the film was giving me a headache. And the guy whose house it was said, "Yeah, it's really deep and hard to follow." And I just thought it's the most dull, pretentious bollocks I think I've ever seen, mate. That's what I think. It's not hard to work out at all. I could probably tell you what happens at the end. And I kind of thought, I bet this will happen. And it did. I'm not going to spoil it because some people may have not experienced that pain of watching that film. And so I will leave them to enjoy it. So, yeah.
I quite liked Pie.
Some people love it. For me, I'd rather watch Porky's in a room full of people who didn't appreciate it.
Another film we showed them was Every Which Way But Loose.
Great film.
No. Clyde the monkey is the only, the orangutan is the only part of that that's great. And even it's not great. It's not great because you think, well, this monkey probably drank a lot more beer than monkeys are supposed to. Speaking of monkeys, Jesus, I went to go see Primate the other day.
I wondered where we were going then. You're going to tell me a story about the time you met Bubbles or something.
I'm not allowed, I've got an NDA. I can't tell that story. No one who meets Bubbles lives to tell the tale.
Well, this is true. This is one of the things that people forget who own chimps. And then you read a story a year later. Woman has face ripped off by chimp. And people go, oh, I didn't realise that.
So funny you mention. I was on the group chat that I sometimes do, the box office group chat. And one of the guys there is a guy named Aaron Newworth, who is a film critic. He's got a show, I think it's called Two Black Guys Talk About Godzilla. He's just about to launch. I think the second season has either started or it's coming. But I asked him, like, what do you think about Primate? And he's like, yeah, it's good. It's worth seeing. Yeah. So that night, I think it was that night, I thought, oh, fuck it, I'll go see Primate. And of course, Primate is about a family's pet chimpanzee who gets rabies. And I got news for you. A primate with rabies, it's a real bad deal. And now I've seen the director's other films, a guy who's directed by Johannes Roberts, who's made some like 47 Meters Down, which are fun thrillers, they look great. Yeah, a couple shark films. Yeah, there's two of them. He's made a bunch of other stuff. Great visual sense. He's never made anything super violent that I could think of. So I'm like, okay, this will be fun. I haven't seen a killer monkey movie since I went to go see Shakma at the review a couple years ago. This will be fun. It opens with a vet going into this enclosure at night to give this chimpanzee a shot. Now, the chimpanzee is clearly drooling. It's played by a guy in a suit who is terrifying. And at no point does he go, oh, I shouldn't be in here alone. There's something wrong with this monkey. And it lures him into like its little house, its little monkey hut. And it drags him in and you hear screaming. And I thought, okay, well, that was scary. That was tense. Boy, I'm sure glad I don't have to watch what's happening inside that monkey house. And Johannes Roberts, who was sitting behind me in the dark, went, oh, Bren, you fool, you poltroon. And it cuts, and there's the chimpanzee just tearing this guy's face off in the dark. And I have not had to look away from a movie screen in a long time, but I had to look away from the screen as this dude's face was pulled off. And there is a lot of brutal violence in that movie. I'm not going to describe any more of it, but suffice it to say that by the time it was over, for me, it wasn't fun anymore. Because it started out, Scary Monkey. I can dig Scary Monkey. Again, Shakma was a ton of fun. But this was just people getting pulled apart like they're made of cotton candy. And I'm getting too old for that shit.
Yeah, they are surprising. Because then there is an urban myth that chimps are apparently around 5 or 6 times stronger than a human. They're not that much stronger. It's about 1.5 times. But because they have more muscle mass and sinewy fiber, they're able to exert far larger amounts of force as in regards to pushing and pulling than a human could possibly do. So basically, and that's why they always go for the face.
Right.
It's the easiest way to incapacitate an enemy.
Well, I got to tell you, if I was in a fight with anyone and they said, friend, my next move is to remove your face, I would say, hey, you know what? I've decided that conflict is not for me. I am, in fact, a lover, not a fighter. And perhaps you'd like a massage. And Dana, just before we move on, I wanted to say, too, I did find, a similar story, not quite one-to-one, but it was something that a person called the water people. And so, again, this is not exactly the same, but the fact that, you saw them and they were translucent, this is sort of similar in the telling. So this person says, I remember laying down when my mother changed my brother's diaper, and there were several tall, translucent blue humanoid creatures with glowing orange centers in their heads. They had humanoid figures but lacked any features, no faces or anything like that, and if anything had a body shape similar more to Gumby than a person. They said, my memory of it is vague, but I do recall that imagery pretty clearly. It was like they had bodies made of water that reflected and shimmered. That said, thinking back, I don't think they had any connection to water, but I might be wrong. It's just the best way I could describe them at that time, at my age. The rest of the memories around that period were a blur, but at one point I apparently drew a picture of them looming over my baby brother and I in crayon. It scared my mother pretty severely with how consistently I would describe these water people, as I called them, and it all ended abruptly when I said they were visiting again, and my mother called our grandfather, who was a practicing priest. They left as he was on his way, and as far as my mother recounts, I never spoke of them again, nor do I remember them ever returning. Not sure if it's related at all or not. Well, I'd certainly leave if I knew a priest was coming. But yeah, so I just thought that was the closest I could find sort of with a quick search, Dana. But it seems like you're far from alone. And definitely it seems like you had an out-of-body experience. Although the nature of it, I wonder if this is one of those things where like you've reached it's a point in your life where things could have gone very differently. Like if that little bastard had been able to actually light her hair on fire, if maybe it wouldn't have done anything too terrible. Although, lighting someone's hair on fire is never awesome. I'm speaking from experience, but I wonder if that would have nudged her life in a different direction.
Maybe it's a crossroads moment, isn't it? You would suspect.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure when he turns up on America's Most Wanted, we can ask him.
I'm trying to think. That's it reminded me. I'm trying to think where the stories of the Glimmer Man, where I saw that, where you've got a few occurrences where people like shimmering and almost translucent or watery, but they tend to be more in the realm of the UFO.
I'll have to see if we can find some more Glimmer Man stories for a future episode. I'd love to do a show on that.
Yeah, it's there, but I couldn't point it as I'm surrounded by numerous books that will probably mention it, but I can't source it, so I'll do some digging. But it's certainly it's not a unique experience.
Well, for the time being, folks, go watch The Glimmer Man with Steven Seagal and Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Don't do that. Don't spoil your day by watching that stupid man. The only thing you should ever watch is Steven Seagal doing his dojo or whatever bullshit he is, where he's basically just a overweight alcoholic just waving his arms about and people pretend to fall over.
Oh, well, yeah. If you ever want to have a good laugh, watch Steven Seagal doing his Aikido demonstrations, quote-unquote demonstrations, while a bunch of young Russian men throw themselves around the gym as if he is doing it with telekinesis.
It always reminds me of that wonderful footage of one of those mystics in Asia somewhere who claimed that he could do that kind of crap, where basically he would just wave his hands and people would go, oh, or fall over and everything. And then somebody arranged a fight against an MMA guy, and he just beat the shit out of him in about 3 seconds. Brilliant.
Well, while you either watch an MMA fight or The Glimmer Man with Steven Seagal, we're going to take a break for some ads.
Our next story is from Joe. It was December 2019. My girlfriend at the time and I spent the night in the John Wayne Room, 204, in the Rochester Hotel in Durango, Colorado. This room is very active, with one of several ghosts in this hotel, a spirit of a lady of the evening from back in the San Juan Mountains gold rush days. She's been seen or experienced fairly often since the 1930s. She's got black hair held up by silver combs and wearing 1890s lingerie. Several people, including some I personally know, have experienced full-on apparitions or unexplained footsteps, singing, the smell of perfume, or someone laying down on the bed and whispering menu items in their ear. Local law says that John Wayne himself saw her in that room back in 1947, and I'm unaware of what her backstory is, but considering the times and the profession, I can assume that she's a poor thing. My girlfriend and I were staying there one evening that December, and we tried for an hour or two to pick up the spirit responding to our questions on the recording device that we were using on our phones, but with no success. We figured she wasn't home and got ready to go out to dinner. Whilst my girlfriend was in the bathroom, the doorknob started moving back and forth. And I thought, cute, she's trying to scare me. But suddenly, the door flew open with a loud bang, as if an invisible person had kicked it open. My girlfriend was in there, looking as shocked as me when she realised that I wasn't anywhere near the bathroom door. And at dinner, I'm not ashamed to say that I was hoping she would say she didn't want to spend the night there anymore, but she was totally into it. So we came back, watched a movie, ate our leftovers, and went to sleep with no further events. However, at exactly 3 a.m., we were both awoken by the sound of a woman humming, drawers in the furniture being opened and closed, and footsteps, those of a leather-soled shoe on a hardwood floor. I didn't recognise the tune, and to be fair, the only 1890s song I know is Clementine, and all I can say is, it wasn't that. The room was pitch black, and we couldn't see anything except for the brief second the light from the snowplough down on the street lit it up. We could see the back of her head briefly. If I was dreaming, we'd both dreamt the same dream at the same time. We bolted and sat up awake without speaking until the sun came up, and then we got the hell out of there. There is another ghost, this one a woman in a long white dress, reputedly the spirit of an early owner, Mary Finn, standing often at the top of the stairs on the second floor. There are no elevators in this historical building. Last Halloween, my now girlfriend Danielle, having heard that story over and over from me, managed to book a room at the Rochester Hotel across from 204. Unsurprisingly, 204 is booked up for Halloween months in advance. So we enjoyed the usual crazy Mardi Gras-esque Halloween in downtown Durango and caught up with many friends that we ran into out and about. At about 1 a.m, we walked back to the Rochester and let ourselves into the front door. Not a single person was up, and there was no one on the front desk. I stopped at the bottom of the stairs looking at the brochures on the rack by the front desk while Danielle continued her way upstairs. In a second, I heard her softly but urgently calling me from the top of the stairs. I walked up, and at the top, an antique chair that was under the matching desk against the wall where we left earlier was now blocking the landing, causing me to move it back where it was. Around the corner, the door to our room was now open, and the pillows from our bed were in a pile in the doorway, causing me to once again having to move them so I could shut the door behind us. Danielle was in the bathroom when the door shut, and she said that she'd seen the apparition of a woman in a long flowing white dress, with her face blurred at the top of the stairs. But Danielle ran past her and opened our room door and went into the bathroom, locking it behind her, with this woman in white right behind her. I never saw her, but we're assuming she came into our room and threw the pillows and obviously the chair. Maybe she thought I was going to harm Danielle and she was trying to stop me? By the way, Danielle didn't know anything about the sightings of the lady in white at the top of the stairs before this event. She only knew about the lady of the evening that resided in room 204, as I mentioned earlier, the John Wayne room. Thanks to you guys for doing the best paranormal podcast. I've been listening since you started, and I really look forward to each new episode. Sincerely, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. And of course, Joe is the owner of Ghost Walk Durango. So if you happen to find yourself in Durango, Colorado, you want to take a ghost walk, make sure to get in touch with Joe. I think he operates from spring break on through to Halloween, if I'm not mistaken.
I was not aware of that haunted hotel. It sounds very interesting.
It does, yeah. I always figure if a place has got a haunted room, there must be something else going on. You know, most of these places, I think, you know, one room will get all the attention, but I don't think there's these things like spot hauntings. I think odds are you can pick up residual shit no matter where you go.
Yeah, or you end up with situations like the Stanley with their famous haunted room, which actually isn't the original haunted room. That room's been split into two.
Oh, really?
Is it 217 at Stanley? As far as I'm aware, because when I spoke with Kevin Lee Nelson, because obviously Kevin stops at every haunted hotel in North America, it would seem. He loves it.
401.
401. And as far as I'm aware, 401 and 402 were the original 401. And it's been split.
Oh, interesting.
I think, anyway. I might be getting that mixed up. But, I mean, Stanley's the same. Everybody knows about the haunted room. But there's far more to it like that. And it's got, one of the most amusing near-death experiences in real life that anybody could have when that bloody thing blew up and somebody fell through the floor into the room below and survived. In the 20th century. But it's also got a ghost piano there as well. You can hear piano music being played, I think, on the stairs at the Stanley.
Interesting. I hadn't heard that part of it. And supposedly it's 217 and 401. I'm just looking at an article on uncovercolorado.com. Oh, man. So according to Uncover Colorado, there's 401, which is, according to some, the creepiest room in the hotel. It is thought to be haunted by an unfriendly male ghost. Room 407, multiple guests have reported odd experiences of being tucked into bed by some invisible force. 428, some have seen the vision of a cowboy looming over the bed as they sleep or standing in a corner.
Why is it always cowboys? Why is it not a cow?
Famous perverts, cowboys.
It wouldn't surprise me, to be fair.
But yeah, so it seems like in multiple rooms there as well.
I think it's quite odd because you've got to, as we were talking about last episode, we were on about haunted courtrooms and stuff. You think about certain hotels in certain places in the world, and obviously a lot of them in the States during the gold rush era and that kind of Wild West period. All kinds of unspeakable acts must have been committed in hotels up and down America. And so I often find it odd that there aren't more. I mean, obviously some would have been destroyed and rebuilt. And, for example, you look at what happened in 1906 in San Francisco with the earthquake. And obviously a lot of buildings had to be rebuilt after that. But then you end up with the infamous hotel in Milwaukee, which I'm loath to mention, seeing as I once had an episode struck off YouTube for mentioning its name, even though it's a real hotel in a real city.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's 6 years ago now.
Glad YouTube is on top of that, but not the radicalization of an entire generation of young men.
No, you can't say the name of a real hotel, but will platform bigots and racists and misogynists.
Well, at least it shows you what YouTube is all about.
Yeah, but the stories of that place are brilliant as well. The fact that certain... it's Milwaukee Brewers, isn't it? The baseball team there.
Yeah.
They always make sure that they always try and put the away team there, don't they?
Oh, I hadn't heard that story, but that's very funny.
There's tons of players who won't stop there. They make their own accommodation.
That's great. Diabolical.
Tons of stories. Well, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I remember once, years ago, there's a very famous interview on an Art Bell episode from about 97, where he talks to a sports reporter who's on pre-season training camp, I think, with the Yankees. I can't remember the team. But he'd gone there to report back for the channel on the team and obviously watching them practice and seeing how the new players that they'd picked up were doing and how the team were performing and stuff. And he ended up getting put into a haunted condo, and he just basically has this 30-minute conversation with Art Bell telling him all this weird shit. And he said, I just didn't believe any of it before I went there. I had no belief in the paranormal. I thought it was all mumbo jumbo nonsense. And it's really quite eye-opening because you've got this beer swilling macho sports reporter telling him how shit scared he was of this haunted condo that he ended up getting stuck in. Brilliant.
Sometimes the best stories come from people who are not expecting these things.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's really good. I'll try and dig it out. It's one of the. I don't think it's a Ghost to Ghost special, but it's from that sort of late 90s period. It's a great chat because this guy's because apparently he'd been on the news and everything, and so loads of people had got in touch with Art saying you've got to get this guy on and speak to him, and so he did.
Oh wow. I have to search because there's that fantastic archive someone made where they basically made every Art Bell transcript searchable, or they transcribed every episode, made them searchable, and then indexed each line in the transcript to the actual recording. It's bonkers. I can't remember the name of I'll if I haven't sent it to you already, I'll send it to you. I used it for an episode of Fear Daily, but because I made an episode of Fear Daily that's a transcript of a Lost Art Bell episode, but or Lost Art Bell call. But yeah, it's the amount of work that it must have taken to put this together is staggering.
Yeah, well, whoever that was, thank you.
Yeah, no kidding. Speaking of hauntings too, I wanted to give a shout out to one of your countrymen. Do you know Rob Kirkup?
Yes, I do.
From How Haunted?
Yes.
Yeah, Rob is, he seems like a good dude. He recently joined Brandon's network.
Ah, right.
Yeah, so I was going to say, folks, if you want another knowledgeable English voice in your ears telling you about spooky things in the UK, check out How Haunted with Rob Kirkup. You can find that pretty much everywhere you get your podcasts, I do believe. Our final story tonight comes from Dextrous. Dextrous says, I've been a listener for years and I would like to share my story with you. This story is deeply personal to me, and I haven't told too many people about it. Few would believe it anyways. Luckily, John, my boyfriend, now husband, was with me at the time and witnessed the whole event. My Aunt Tiff had recently passed away in 2012 from breast cancer at the young age of 38. She and I were very close. We were only 14 years apart, and sometimes felt more like sisters than aunt and niece. She was my sant, since I know how much Brennan likes the word brunkle. Oh boy. Yikes. Yep. My mouth actively rebelled against even saying that. Okay. Moving on. One night, a couple months after Tiff passed, I was feeling the full weight of my grief. I was inconsolable, sitting on the edge of my bed with John and wondering out loud where my aunt had gone. I started to feel a pulse of rage run through me, and through my tears I angrily called out to Tiff. I asked for her to give me a sign if she was okay, just show me somehow that she was all right wherever she had gone. There was a box fan in front of the window, and while I was calling out, it slowly went from full speed to a complete stop. The blade stood still for a few moments before, whoosh, the motor kicked back on, and the fan was whirring at max speed again. John and I looked at one another in amazement. I found my voice and shouted out once more and said, if that's you, Tiff, just do it once more. One more time so I know you're okay. Once more, on command, the motor and the fan turned off, and the three blades slowly stopped spinning until they completely stopped. Once more, they picked up spinning at full speed after a few moments of being still. John looked at me in shock and asked me to please stop calling out. I was very unnerved, but ultimately felt satisfied with the response I received. I think it was my aunt using her energy to show me that she was okay. And I still do. Something Paul said on a recent episode really resonated with me. He said that maybe we only have these experiences when we really need them. Maybe they only happen to those who really need them too. Needless to say, I really needed it at that time, in that moment of my life. It made me feel like she is okay, wherever she is, and I will be when I pass on as well. Thanks for reading, guys. Love you both and love the show. I can't explain to you how comforting these opening tones are to me, or how much your show has helped me in times of darkness. Happy Halloween. Dextrous. And Dextrous, you know, I know we say this all the time, but it's an honor to be a part of your story, and it's an honor to provide you even a small amount of comfort in your times of need over the years. So thank you very much for listening and for sharing that with us.
Yes, thank you. And yes, I think it's very kind of you to say so, Dextrous. I think it is one of the things I'm very passionate about, simplifying it, because I think there's too much credit is given to, if you don't get the full body apparition, they don't care about your crap. And it don't work like that. The vast majority of people who experience things after a loved one's passed are the simple, pleasant, surprising little things. It's not them just turning up in your bedroom going, hello.
As nice as that would be, you know, I know that's all kind of what we want. We want that. That said, I think sometimes to actually have that would scare the shit out of us. You know, I think it's one thing to wish for something and another thing to get it.
Well, I was going to say, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, there you go. We're going to pretend I made that up, though.
Yeah, I think you did make that up. I think that's directly quoted to you now.
That's it. From your lips to the chariots of the gods' ears.
That's not a pyramid I'm prepared to die on, my friend.
Of course, folks, just Eric Von Daniken has passed in recent days. And
never heard of it.
I, of course, think he's full of shit, and Paul is very diplomatic.
Well, we haven't got 3 hours for me to rant.
We'll do that for we got to record Talk Spooky next week. We'll do the patron bonus at the same time.
Good luck with that.
So yeah, Dextrous, again, thank you so much for sharing that. That's beautiful. And I think you're right. I think, that was her way of saying it's okay. And hopefully this, for those of you who are going through something right now, maybe you've lost someone close to you, I hope that Dextrous' story gives you some hope as well. And some of these others. I think we've had a lot of hopeful stories in this episode. Stories that there are people out there, positive, like change happens, but, it's different, but it's okay. And there are people and things out there looking out for you.
Yes. Not all journeys are smooth, and many are difficult, but that's the point for some of us.
That's it. We got to shave off the rough edges so we can be better people at the other end of it.
Exactly. Worked for Odysseus. That all turned out well.
Worked out for me. I'm just kidding. I started as a prick. I'm going to die as one. That's fine.
I'm all right, me.
Well, some folks get it right early, and they can just keep sailing.
It took me a while, but I'm all right there. Yeah.
There you go.
I could have been a prick. You're not a prick. You're a dick, not a prick. There's a difference.
Okay, I'll take that. Actually, I'll take that. Thank you.
My kind of dick.
Thank you again. I'll take very kind of you.
Because I'm a dick. My kind of dick. You're going to have that on your tombstone like Spike Milligan had. I told you I weren't well.
I was thinking I'm going to put that on my my website. I just blurbed Steve Stred's new book, and this is like my blurb of my life by Paul Bestel. My kind of dick.
Yes, that was from my short-lived adult career, but we move on.
Well, you folks can puzzle that one out, and we're going to draw this episode of Listener Stories to a close. Thank you to everyone who sent in their stories. And if you want to send us your stories, you can do so via our website. There's a form at ghoststoryguys.com. We just had someone submit a story via Reddit, which is awesome. Again, we're on Reddit at r/ghoststoryguys podcast. We are on Facebook as our group is the Ghost Story Guys Cabin. And we're on Instagram as the Ghost Story Guys. If for stories, your best bet are probably Facebook or probably, the website or email, but just don't send it via Instagram DM. Those shits get lost because it just is the whole thing. But any other place, send them, and if we will get them in the show as soon as we can. And if not a story episode, we'll do what we can to get it into a Talk Spooky episode. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hey there, listeners. Before you reach for that skip 15 seconds ahead button, I promise you this isn't an ad. We wanted to take a minute to talk to you about mental health. On this show, I've always tried to be as honest and open as possible about my struggles with depression and anxiety, because even though we've come a long way towards acknowledging the very real damage these things can do, there is still way too much lingering stigma about reaching out for help. And when you start to feel like there's no help, it's easy to start feeling like there's no hope. But Paul has joined me today to remind you there is always hope and there's always help.
We're not going to try and talk you out of self-harming right now, because we know that's not how it works. Instead, what we wanted to do was tell you something now and hope that should things get bad, you'll remember it and make a phone call or send a text message before you make any permanent decisions. As someone who knows all too well just how important mental health can be, it's never too late to reach out.
In Canada, the number to call is 133-456-4566. In the USA, the new number to call is 988. That's 988.
In the UK, the number to call is 116123 or text SHOUT, that's SHOUT, to 85258. In Australia, the number to call is 131114.
However bad shit seems, it will pass. And no matter what your brain might be telling you at any given moment, and believe me when I say I know this intimately, there are people who love you and people who care deeply about how you treat yourself. Should a time come when you find yourself despairing, please know that we've both been where you are, and there is a way back to the world. Take care. Welcome back. The Ghost Story Guys are Luke Greensmith, who helps us find our stories. He's also host of the Luke Lore podcast, available everywhere fine podcasts live. Mark Semler, who helps manage our Facebook community.
Our paranormal conductor is Mr. Brennan Storr.
And of course, my friend and co-host is the one, the only, the inimitable Paul Bestel, the paranormal Johnny Carson himself, host of Mysteries and Monsters. Paul, what's coming up on M&M?
I take a trip to a state we've not dove into, I don't think, on the show before. We're heading to Maine.
Oh, very cool.
As I welcome for the first time Noma Slevak to the show, and we'll be diving into some of his books and his upcoming things and a few strange tales and legends that Maine has offered us over the years. So I'm looking forward to people hearing that. And Noma's a very good author and a great researcher, so I hope people enjoy that one. So makes a change for me interviewing people, because I seem to have appeared on about 4 different shows in the last 5 weeks. So I think people might be sick of hearing me and want to hear somebody else.
And where can everyone find you online?
You can find Mysteries and Monsters across most social media platforms and all good and bad podcast sites.
Fabulous. I'm Largely the Truth on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and you can follow my movie watching exploits on Letterboxd if you're a big old movie nerd like me. I'm also co-writer of Fear Daily, the horror fiction podcast, which you can find everywhere fine podcasts live, and I narrate audiobooks over on Audible. Just search for Brennan Storr over on Audible, and you can hear me narrating not only my own book, in both versions of it, I might add, but Ruth Roper Wild's These Haunted Times, Volume 5. Again, that's over on Audible. And you said you have recorded a hojillion guest spots, my friend. Where can folks listen to you coming up?
I shall be making a return visit to continue our conversation on Hair in the Hawthorn with my friend Kate, as Zoom decided it didn't want us to carry on, so we must have scared it. So that'll be coming up soon. Obviously, weekend just gone, I've just done a live presentation on a couple of strange ghost stories from Sheffield. And they will be on the Ghost Planet Network website by the end of this week. So everybody who gave a talk over the weekend, they'll all be uploaded on there. So please excuse my PowerPoint failing for 45 minutes of my 55-minute talk. It got there in the end. No. But thankfully, I just ignored it and just rattled on regardless. And then obviously, so I've just done an episode of Hair in the Hawthorn with Kate, which has been out a couple of weeks. I did 2 episodes of Into the Fray, which I wasn't aware of. I didn't know Shannon was going to twice a week. So I'm on 2 weeks, 2 episodes in a week. And I will be appearing with an old friend of mine, Bob Brown, who's one of Paul Sinclair's friends. I'll be making a return visit to his show in February sometime.
Very cool, man. You are everywhere.
Yes, I am. I'm also doing a live presentation next month for ASAP, but I'm not sure. I think the date's the 16th, but I'll double check that.
Very, very cool, my friend. This is the year of Paul Bestel. You heard it here first, folks.
Well, I hope it's not too busy, because I won't be talking to anybody in June and July for 5 weeks, because I'll be drunk.
Yeah, you'll notice I blocked your time off on the schedule for the World Cup.
I've not even looked at the fixtures yet. I'm just trying to get my head around 5 o'clock kickoff times. Oh, for fuck's sake.
As we said at the top of the show, we could not do this without our patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. You guys are the lifeblood of Ghost Story Guys. And if you would like to get access to not only a fabulous community of extremely cool people, but bonus shows, extra conversations between myself and Paul, early ad-free release of main and Talk Spooky episodes, and so much more, click the link in the show notes, or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or become a Cabadista on Apple Podcasts. And we would very much appreciate it. And of course, we know the economy is not in an awesome spot right now. So if you can't support us at the moment, hey, tell a friend, tell a couple friends, bring some new folks over. That helps just as much. But again, if you want to support us financially, you can do so by clicking the link in the show notes, heading to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or becoming a cabinista on Apple Podcasts. Our theme song, Radio, Into the Darkness We Go, is composed and performed by Peter Kursov of Pizzanta Music. Find more from him by searching for Pizzanta Music wherever you get your tunes. And I think that's going to do it.
We'll be back next week, but until then...
Into the chariot of the gods we go.
As I always say, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So that's why I've not said anything.
If you don't have anything nice to say, start a podcast with Brent.
Yeah, nobody's going to leave my opinion of that man out of me.
All right, I'm going to spend the rest of the episode trying to do that. It is, absolutely. But when I use it, it sounds like I'm making dirty phone calls to someone's mom.
No, it's the name of a monthly program we have here in the UK that covers astrophysics and space exploration and science. And I love watching it because I just learn stuff every episode and I just go, the fuck are they on about now? Just basically hanging on to the conversation by my fingernails. Brilliant. I love it. I love that. I love listening to clever people.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, that's a great experience. If they don't mind you listening, or like whatever the situation is, like you're watching and you can just hang on and try and pick something up. That's a fun situation to be in.
Yeah, you learn a lot.
Funny enough, I just started using this app called Libby, which allows you to borrow magazines and books and shit from your local library. And so I used to subscribe to New Scientist for years, and then I just haven't because I just didn't have the money anymore. And but you can now subscribe through the app for free. So I was reading New Scientist at lunch today, and funny enough, it was space stuff, and it was the same thing. I'm like, whoa, I know fuck all about this. Nope, not a thing. I'm scrolling through the app, and I'm just like, oh man, I am dumb. Talking about quantum computing.
Yeah, it's when they start talking about string theory and quarks, I'm like, whoa, okay, it's going to be a long ride.
Yeah, I feel dizzy. I feel like I'm going to shit myself. Yeah, exactly.
That was my original idea for the title of Talk Spooky, that Talking Bollocks with Brennan Storr.
Bollocks.
Spooky Bollocks.
Oh, man. I wish we'd named it Spooky Bollocks. What a great title that would have been. So I'm going to leave this one with you. I'm going to fill up my water jug and take a leak, not at the same time. I promise.
I'm going to say that's some recycling going on there, mate. that music is used at sports I don't attend. That's why I recognise it.
Yeah. I mean, all sports are sports I don't attend, but yes.
Hey, I accidentally caught myself watching some basketball last night. I've watched too much NBA recently. I don't know what's going on.
You're going to end up hooked. You just be watching it. You'll be telling me about LeBron next.